People always ask how I balance my family life with 400 shows a year. I'm just doing what I love with the people I love. It's my magic life.
I like Wes Iseli. I like everything about him.
All right. Today's episode, man, we've been looking forward to this one. We got a buddy of mine on here, Jason Palter. I met him, 7 years ago at a Magic Convention. And awesome inventor, creator. He was lecturing there. He was selling all of his magic tricks that he created there. And he was the talk of the convention that year. And I befriended him, and we've been friends ever since. And I don't know. Welcome, everybody. Jason Palter.
Hey, thanks, Wes.
Woo.
How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Running around
Great.
crazy.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. Thanks for being here, dude. Jason's one of those people that I've only seen you once my whole life, a 3-day weekend, but we've kept in touch after all those years, and it's good to have.
I know, when you think about it, it's strange, huh? How that works.
But it's good to have friends, man. I don't. It doesn't matter how often we see each other, but we keep in touch with each other. And
yeah, absolutely.
And one thing that helped was Natalie liked you. You and Natalie hit it off, and I'm not afraid to say it on my podcast that magicians are weird, man.
Yeah, he wasn't weird to me. He didn't ask me how much I charged to rent myself out as an assistant or anything weird like that. He was just really nice.
God. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing when I hear stories like that this is what other magicians say. I thought you guys were absolutely lovely, and your daughter at the time was just a few months old. So, when was that, Wes? That was 2012, right? I think it was fall of 2012.
That sounds right, yeah. So the first convention I ever took Natalie to, we're walking around the dealer room, and this guy has this big blue sponge on his ear, and it was in the shape of a tooth. And it's huge. I mean, it was bigger than a fist. And he's just walking around to every dealer and saying, "Do you like this? Do you like this?" And people are like, "What is it?" "It's my Bluetooth." And that was his joke that he had to tell everybody. And that's how Natalie got introduced to magicians at a convention. And then
sadly, that's the norm.
And she didn't. And Natalie, you didn't leave him at that point,
right?
Oh, it got better. It got better because we both laughed at it. And then I got pulled in a different direction. A guy said, "Come here, Wes, let me show you something." And Natalie was talking to some guy, and I left Natalie for 2 seconds, which she sworn me never to do again at a magic convention.
Yep.
And I went over to a table to watch a guy do something. He wanted me to critique it or something. And Natalie came back. She said, "Wes, we have to go." I said, "What happened?" Hey, the guy just walked over to her from across the room, walked over to her and looked at her from her forehead to her toes and back up again, and said, "Are you his assistant? Do you ever rent yourself out to other magicians?" And it just, and Natalie's like,
"No,
I'm with him."
Yeah.
And and you know, I can see both sides. You know, all right, yeah, well, she is tall. She does fit in boxes. Do you ever do that? But it was the way he looked her up and down, and
yeah, it was creepy. It was creepy, and it's just one of those things where I was like, "No, Wes, where are you?" Because it's just, yeah, that was weird, and it was one of my first time meeting other magicians, and I was just like, "I'm glad you don't act like that, Wes. We would not be together if you did."
Yeah.
So
yeah, on behalf
it's
of other
interesting.
magicians, Natalie, I apologize.
Oh no, you know what? You made up for it.
Thank you. So sweet. Thank you.
But dude, comedy magician, MC, corporate speaker. How long you been doing magic?
So I did my first paid show when I got to think about this, I was about 10 years old. And so I'm a little bit older than that right now. So I've been doing this a long time, but professionally, before university, magic put me to university, and that's where I started. And just sort of I always sort of leaned more towards the comedic side. Always, when I was a kid doing this, I just enjoyed, even before I was a magician, when I was younger, I just enjoyed making people laugh and being the class clown and doing silly stuff. And then, that's just sort of how it started to focus. But what's interesting, as you mentioned off the top, is as a creator selling my stuff, a lot of my tricks are not comedy based, which is interesting. A lot of the releases that I do, but I sometimes put comedy spins on them for sure.
Yeah, I've never seen a comedy version of Third Degree Burn, but I'm sure it could be done.
Right.
Yeah, I'm sure it could be done.
Right.
We'll tell everybody what that's about later on when we get over to that stuff. But yeah, so what about emceeing? How did you fall into the MC thing from Magic?
You know what? The first time I was an MC, I think I was in grade 6, and I was emceeing the school holiday concert, or Christmas concert, so many years ago. So I've always been, like most performers, I'm just very comfortable speaking in front of a crowd. And it was a number of years ago. It was a corporate event, and they weren't exactly sure how they saw me fitting in. So I was trying to sell them on the idea of magic. And then, well, we don't know if we want a full show. And I think it just sort of came out. I said, well, why don't I be a ringmaster? Why don't I be a master of ceremonies? And they were sort of intrigued. And, it's one of those Bugs Bunny, think fast rabbits. I had to think about it really quickly. How am I going to do this? And realize that I was just going to incorporate the two as a sort of a magical MC and just host the event. So it exploded from there, just to go, and it was just another thing I hadn't really thought of doing.
Wow. So what about the corporate? What about corporate speaking? Do you?
In the corporate speaking, I'd heard of a lot of magicians doing this, and it's the idea of just using the magic as a sales tool to help you promote. Magicians doing at trade show booths or team building or a keynote speech or product launch. Same thing. So I just sort of encompass it all under corporate speaking.
Okay.
Because, otherwise it just gets too, the business card then turns into a double-sider, if you list too many titles. So I just sort of say corporate speaking, and it's usually enough to intrigue people to say, well, how does this sort of fit in? I did my first one. The first one I ever did was actually one of the largest ones I had ever done many, many years ago. And I really enjoyed it. I just really enjoyed combining the corporate message or whatever idea they wanted in with the magic, the comedy, the storytelling, and just sort of putting together a blend. So it wasn't just a boring speech, but it wasn't strictly a magic show either. It was a nice, careful blend of the two of them. And then, of course, customizing it, as we often will do, customizing it to whatever the client is looking for.
Wow. Well, when I saw you were headlining the event up there. You did a lecture, you had your sales booth, and you also headlined the gala show. Yes. And it was great. It was fantastic. I'm like, how have I never heard of this guy before? You were fantastic. It was awesome. But
brother, yeah, it was a lot of fun.
But I didn't find out till years later that you did the voiceover and the actor stuff. How does that fit in?
Yeah, again, as a performer, always sort of did this stuff, and I've been a ventriloquist also since I've been young, but don't really do a lot of it anymore, and so started doing some puppeteering and hand demo work on TV, and then just sort of did some acting. So most of the acting I've done has been commercials. I actually did a film that would have been, there's a link for it, a 5-minute short that won awards in the US and in Canada called The Walking Man, that was written and produced by another magician, Derek Sellinger, a good friend of mine in Calgary, Alberta, up here in Canada. And that was a lot of fun, and that did very well. But again, it's just a short film. And then the voiceover, the same sort of stuff, put together a demo and just go out and do it. But unlike a lot of colleagues of mine who do that stuff, I don't do it full time, so it's sort of on the side. Wes, I'm sure it's the same with people. Most actors are actually waiters, or they work in stores. They do the acting and the voice on the side. I've always done the magic on full time and the acting and the voice on the side. So at least I still get that performance-based stuff that I can do. And I just enjoy doing the character voices, the voiceover stuff. It's fun. It's awesome. But again, it's a similar area to performing, but totally different from the magic. And the acting, well, what's the line? That we're actors playing the part of a magician. So that's what it is.
Jean-Eugene Robert-Houdin.
Did theaters. That's right.
Yeah.
And just doing, I've done theater school since I've been younger. So, and I just translate that stuff into, commercials or on film stuff.
Well, my publicist keeps trying to get me to go on auditions for commercials and things, and I'm like, no, I'm a magician. I can't do it. I don't want to waste a day where I could be in the office booking a magic show. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where, no, I'm good. I love what I do so much. I did acting in high school. Natalie directed plays in college and in high school, and she has a stage background as well, but I just love the magic so much. I don't want to miss something by doing something else, you know?
Yeah, there's certainly something to be said about splitting yourself, dividing yourself into too many areas, because you can't sort of be a master in one area. But and what you said is very true. It's, you know, wasting a day spending time, because most of them are just auditions,
right,
and a lot of no's until you finally start getting a few yeses. And you're right, thinking, gosh, during that no, I'd be home taking calls, working on a new routine, following up with clients, etc. There's definitely something to be said about that. Yeah, absolutely.
So with your voiceover work, do you do, I'm not trying to be silly, please, I love you, I don't want to ever upset you, but do you do like silly cartoon voices? What kind of stuff do you do with the voiceover stuff? Is it just direct read, or how does that work?
Both. It can be narration, it can be voiceovers just simply for a commercial, it can be a simple tag, you know, at your local Home Depot, a simple thing at the end, or it can be absolutely animation for the cartoon type stuff. So it's a variety of things, and I enjoy I just enjoy playing in front of a microphone, as I guess all performers just enjoy playing in front of a stage, or, gosh, we're so vain, just in front of a mirror, right?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Doing
Yeah.
magic, right?
So many times I'm driving on the road and my hands just start flailing back and forth, and Natalie looks at me, "Are you okay?" I was working on a coin move, honey. I didn't have a coin in my hand.
Yeah,
I just know that trick would work now.
Yeah, I don't ask anymore.
That's right, babe. You don't have to grab the steering wheel. I'm not having a seizure. I'm okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's true.
So anyway, when I got the call from Fool Us that they wanted me on, I immediately called you and said, "Hey, what am I in for?" And you held my hand. You took care of me. I would not have gotten where I got without your help. And dude, I owe you a big hug and a million thank yous. You just, you told me everything that to be expected, like the behind the scenes stuff that I didn't know. I did another friend's podcast today, and I said, you know, if my wife and daughter wasn't there, I would have missed out on so much more, because you get there the night of the gig, they put you in a loading cell in the basement, just a holding room for 5 hours with other magicians. You get on stage, you do your bit, and they ask you to leave the auditorium and go back to your room. So Natalie and Lana were able to fill me in. Okay, so when I won, did the Fool Us logo show up behind me? Okay, so before me, did the curtain ever close? What was the logo behind? I could ask them questions. How did the other guys do?
Yeah.
But for you were by yourself there. Your wife didn't go with you.
She did not.
It must have been a weird gig by yourself, man.
It was. So I was on the year before you, season 5 finale. You were in season 6, right?
7.
So I guess I was 2 years before. So I got the. So it's. Yeah, it was strange. Now, the advantage that I have over, I think, a lot of magicians is I have a background in theater and performing. I'm not just a magician. My BA, my university degree, is from Ryerson University here in Toronto in radio and TV. So I'm used to being in the studio. I'm used to cameras. I'm used to the things. So it was still, don't get me wrong, it was very daunting to be up there with, 9 cameras or something on that shoot. But I was able to take a lot of it in, but I was alone. So I'm so glad that I was able to translate some of that to help you, because you're right. You get off the stage, you're back in your hotel room, you say, what just happened? And you're right. Was the logo behind me? Did this happen? Was there music? Was there not? You don't remember it. So I'm glad that I was able to help.
And it's 4 months of preparation for, 10 minutes and, a flight to Vegas and a flight home. And that's a blur.
Yeah.
That's a blur.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you smashed it, man. It was amazing. It was just, what's really lovely about that show, and I try to explain this to, colleagues or, whatever, who business people or friends, about reality TV. I said it is probably the most realistic reality TV, because unlike a lot of reality TV, pardon my French, crap that's out there, what you see is what you get. They want you to succeed. They're not trying to secretly set you up with a smash thing that they can go right to commercial with this dramatic part. What you see is what you get. Penn and Teller want you to fool them. They want you to succeed. And everybody working on the show, they just want you to feel comfortable. So that was something that I was told before I was on, and I felt that, and I told you too. I understand you being nervous, but don't be nervous, because everyone wants you to succeed. And wasn't it an amazing experience, huh?
So what was Penn and Teller's, how did they look at you when you walked out there? Because they gave me a look, and it sounds corny, it was magical, dude. Whatever they did, they winked at me, they smiled, they waved, they did something that immediately just washed over me. They're my friends. I've known them all my life. Let's rock and roll. Let's have fun. It wasn't with their arms crossed, confrontational. It wasn't any of that. It was let's have fun.
Something for sure, and something. So I don't know if it's the same for everybody how they enter, but for the listeners to understand, you're walking out where it's very quiet, and they're just resetting the cameras, and they're talking about what they're going to do. And so for me, when I came out to take my mark, and I'm just taking a breath, taking it all in, and they looked up from whatever paper they were doing, they gave me a lovely smile, a little wave, a little wink, whatever it was, and it was just, hey, Jason, nice to see you. And I'd met them before. I don't know if they remember me or not, or if they know me. But as a lot of people don't understand, they don't know who's coming out until you actually take your mark on the stage. They don't know who the next performer is. So it could be one of their colleagues right there in Las Vegas, or it could be a complete unknown coming in from Europe. They have no idea. But exactly, Wes, what you said. It was just very nice and warm, and that's exactly what they did before they started rolling. And they get the audience clapping, and then Allison, the host, starts doing her thing. So yeah, it was great.
Yeah, I mean, so was Michael Close there with you that year? Michael Close is one of the magic consultants behind the scenes that helps out the acts and just makes them feel comfortable. He's a friend of yours. Was he there that year with you?
He was, yeah. And
okay.
He, as he said to me, he said, look, Jason, I have no say on who gets on. I have no say who doesn't get on. He said, I'm just there as a consultant. I watch, hundreds, thousands of tapes, and then they choose who they want. So the only advantage, obviously Michael and his wife are dear friends of ours. They're amazing people. They actually don't live too far away from us. But that's all it was. So he had no influence of whether I was chosen or not. He was just, the best piece of advice he gave to me, which I also gave to you, is when you go out to take your mark and they're just sort of doing the final preparations, it'll be about a minute and a half before they say, okay, you ready? Go, and then they start going. Take a breath. Take it all in, because you will not remember what just happened. And even with the breath, I still didn't remember everything that happened. So he was just able to give me that sort of thought, but I didn't see him. I saw him, I think he emailed me that night afterwards to let me know that he was, that I he thought I did great, and the producers were really happy, and that was it. But he didn't say whether you make it or whether you don't make it.
Right.
So that's because he doesn't know. Again, he has no control over that stuff.
So, did you hang out with him at all, or pretty much probably about the same
Not
amount
at all.
I hung out with him? Okay.
I saw him once during the rehearsal.
Yeah, okay.
And that was it. He's working so hard. Poor Michael. There's just so much to do. And the year that I was on, Johnny was still there, but his health wasn't great, so Michael had to help, with a lot of stuff, because, Johnny had to just sort of take it easy. Johnny Thompson, of course, I'm talking about. So it was, I didn't, other than the rehearsal, came in, gave him a hug, how you doing, whatever, that was it. I didn't see him again.
Since he was your buddy, I didn't know if you guys, grabbed lunch together or hung out, more. I don't know. Yeah.
I think that any break that he gets, he just needs to sleep.
Yeah.
Because he's just working so hard, yeah.
Well, anyway, yeah, but thank you, dude. I owe you a big hug.
Yeah.
You walked me through it. I didn't know that, when Allison looks up from the commercial that, that was done in post, and that the people in the audience don't see anything that night. You let me on so many little tips and tricks and little secrets behind the scenes. It was like, yeah, I know what to expect. I felt like you walked me through this course before I went on it, and it really helped me. So I can't thank you enough. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
So, and then when I won, I couldn't tell you because I was scared to death because of those contracts. So I'm sorry about
absolutely.
that.
Yeah, no problem. That's totally cool.
Dude, I love you, but I'm scared to tell you if I did good or not. I didn't. I think I told you. I said I didn't pee on myself. That's all I can tell you.
Yeah, and I was very proud of you.
Yeah,
But you may, I wanted to, for the show, I wanted to wear my brown pants, just in case. But
Yeah.
no, I was fine. I wore a blue suit. I was good. So, yeah.
That's great.
That's true.
Well, anyway, so you created a magic trick called Space Between, and that's what you did for Penn and Teller. How long ago did you create that?
So that was based on an idea from a mentorless performer, also local here to me, a friend of mine named Chaim Goldenberg, and he brought that to me with an idea that he wanted to market it. So it's one of the tricks in my line. My company is Poltergeist Unlimited, which is a play on my last name, of course, and that trick's called the Space Between. And that trick, I got to look to see what year that came out. I'm trying to remember. Was it 2010?
You had it in 2012 because I bought it.
2012. There you go. I don't even remember. That was that was not my first time auditioning for Penn and Teller's Fool Us. For the TV show, I'd auditioned 2 years before, also with two other tricks of mine, and one I made it to a final round, and then they just changed their mind. And the Space Between, the one that I auditioned and got it. That was just on a lark. I didn't think that was actually going to happen. So that was one of the releases, as I say, that I did. Did you say 2012? Was that when it came in? I'm just looking at the... no, actually, I just looked it up. It's 2008 is when I released it, but you probably got it in 2008.
I bought it from you in 2012 when I met you. Yeah.
There you go, yeah.
Well, I bought that. I bought Third Degree Burn, and I bought I Know. And then you did...
Yeah, Third Degree Burn.
Yeah?
What's that, sorry?
You did Red Carpet that night at the show, and we can talk about those other tricks as well. But Red Carpet, I think you might have closed your act with that. I mean, I don't know how you could have followed that. That was fantastic. So you can tell everybody all about Third Degree Burn, I Know, and Red Carpet, but I think you closed the act that night with Red Carpet. It was fantastic.
Yes, I think you're right. I close a lot of my shows with that. Third Degree Burn was the first trick that I put out back again, and I think that was 2006, 2005. Isn't it funny how... This is why, years ago, I remember listening to an Elton John concert, and he was talking about how he hadn't sung some of these songs in so long, and he had to relearn the lyrics. I'm going, you got to relearn the lyrics? But I sort of understand now. Some of this stuff, you just don't remember when you did it. So Third Degree Burn was the first trick I put out on a lark. Just figured, you know what? We'll see if this goes. Let's see if it actually, ends up making it. And it was a bestseller. It sold tons of units. That was, it certainly was not expected. So what I did is I then followed it up with some other products and some other things.
Well, Third Degree Burn is a blister effect. We got to let the audience know, where you can have somebody choose a playing card. You take a lighter, wave it over your hand or whatever, and you magically have a blister appear on your pointer finger and your thumb. That would be like a 3 on your pointer finger and a heart on your thumb, or whatever card they chose, just a blister appears. And yours is the most well-made prop. It's a hidden prop that the audience doesn't see, but yours will last a lifetime, and it's awesome. Yeah. And it has indicators that help, and it was awesome. It's great.
It is, and it's just for people who are younger listening, don't want to work with fire, it's fine. You don't even have to use, there's tons of ideas that come with it, so you don't even have to use a flame. But it is the only one, knock on wood, that there's no force, there's no deck of cards. If you're familiar with a card index, it's essentially what it's like. You just walk up to somebody and just say, name a card. And whatever card they named is blistered on your fingers, and you can repeat it again and it's instantly reset. So that's sort of been that's sort of what put me on the map of magic trick creation. So that's what Third Degree Burn is. And you were saying about the red carpet. The red carpet is it can be done, sort of in a parlor style, but also stage. Essentially, it's just very quickly, the effect is a book of celebrities, and somebody picks whichever celebrity they want. You have a hood over your head. You're going to read their mind and know exactly which one. And it's lovely because you actually, it's lovely in a way that you fail. So you're left alone standing on stage with a bag over your head. And it's a really, from a performance standpoint, it's a really delicious moment because the crowd is feeling, especially if it's a good crowd, they're feeling bad for you. Because I have people who come up to afterwards and say, oh my God, I feel so bad for you. You're standing on stage with a bag on your head. And then, of course, there's a surprise twist at the ending where you end up revealing how it is, and it just brings the house down. And that's a trick in what I call my signature series that was based on an idea from Ari Soroka, who's a very, very dear friend of mine up here in the Toronto area as well, and something that he had been doing years before. And when I met him in '92 and he showed it to me, I actually got shivers because it's so easy, but what you're getting is the routine. What you're getting are all the props to do. But it's so powerful, so powerful. So that was that. Yeah, that's the red carpet. So the ones that I'm probably known the most for in terms of my poltergeist tricks, I would say would be Third Degree Burn. Certainly, I still meet people who say that was the first trick I ever bought, and they have it, and it's great. They said it's a utility prop I'll use forever, because it also can be used, it's a wonderful way also to use as an out. So if you force a card and you can't find it, and you forget what the card is, that can be used as a backup as well. Well, and you just quickly transition in, and the card's blistered to your fingers once they name it, or whatever it is. So that one, the red carpet, the space between, which is the one I did, as I say, on Penn and Teller on Fool Us. Those are the ones I'm known for. And also, one of my my later tricks I've come out with is Turn, which stands for the ultimate random number. And that is a lock trick where there's no force, and it is any 4-digit number, which is named or whatever, or you have as a prediction or whatever, will open the lock. And it's a nice heavy-duty master lock. So those are the ones I'm probably known the most for, I would think.
Well, I don't know if you have a notebook in front of you, but write down Wes Iseli wants one of those. You have a friendship with my wife. You guys talk on Messenger all the time. Christmas is coming. My birthday's coming. I don't have Turn. I need Turn. So you guys could talk off the air about that.
I thought you were going to say, my wife also wants a Turn lock. I'll say, I'll give you 2. I didn't know where you're going with that. Yeah, for sure.
Anyway. So, do you have anything coming up show-wise that you're excited about? Any new tricks? Any new tricks in the works?
Like everyone, unfortunately, during these times that we're on right now, I had a lot of great things coming up in Canada, in the U.S., some stuff in the Caribbean, things pending, and I was negotiating, and everything just died away because we can't travel, and there's no live events anymore. So that's sort of been put on hold, and it's very frustrating. In terms of magic trick creations, I got a couple of things in the works. Nothing that I'm wanting to talk about just yet. A couple of ideas. One is a collaboration with somebody as well, and then just a couple on my own too, because I do have some people who will come to me with a trick idea and say, look, you've sort of got a line on this, and you know how to do this, you've got a name, so they sometimes will ask me to market some stuff for them. But I've got a couple of ideas on my own, and as I say, another collaboration that may or may not come together, still just trying to figure it out. Strange times right now, isn't it?
Well, we talked, boy, it must have been January, I don't know when it was, but you had something in the U.S. for New Year's Eve. Is that still on, or did that get canceled as well?
Nope, gonzo.
Yep.
It is. It's gone. Yeah, we discussed that, and it's a shame. I have a visa, so I can perform in the U.S. because, of course, I'm Canadian and coming down. But yeah, everything is just on hold now, as it is for a lot of people. And the travel and all these things. Yeah, it'll get better. We just have to hunker down. It's very strange times as we're all, what's the key word now? We're all pivoting to figure out something else to do and figure out our other stuff.
Well, we got Jason Palter live. If you want to book Jason wherever, he's got a visa. He can go wherever he wants. And you got Paltergeist, Paltergeist, Paltergeist.com if you want to buy one of Jason's magic tricks, or just go shopping and see what he's got there. It's got a lot of cool stuff. But
well, thank you.
You are the man. You're a funny dude. I love hanging out with you. I said we got to go on tour, and the Fool Us guys get together and do some theaters. Get this thing rocking and rolling when we open up.
That'd be very cool. There was plans to do something like that up here, and with sort of a lot of the Canadian performers who've appeared on Fool Us, and spearheaded by a couple of guys here in Toronto. And it just sort of, because of what happened with COVID, we had to put it on hold for now.
Yeah.
But that'd be amazing. You and I have also often talked about that, of doing the show together. You coming up here, I'm coming down, doing a theater show or something together with you. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Well, I think a lot of entertainers are very much worried about having, another magician on stage with them or a competition. And our acts are different, and we're not competition with each other. There's enough work out there to go around.
There is.
If you have that and you're guarded and don't want to make friends in this line of work, I mean, we're the only people we can talk to about crazy stuff like this and the stuff that goes down, and we should be closer together, I think.
Yeah, and especially if it's not listen, if it was two comedy performers or two dove acts or two illusionists, maybe you don't want them both on the same bill. But you're right, you and I, obviously as friends as well, be great. But I think our acts and our styles are differing enough that they would certainly complement each other for an audience.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
Well, talking about road stories and everything, that brings us right into, we were talking before the podcast about, extra stories or whatever. Tell me some disaster stories. Do you know any yours or someone else's? Just funny road stories or disaster stories?
Yeah, I'm going to tell you one disaster story of another performer that I know, because this, I think, is one of my favorite disaster. I've got a few disaster stories of other performers I've heard, but this one is one of my favorites. And now, again, this did not happen to me. This happened to another performer who shall remain nameless.
You're protesting too much. You're protesting too much.
The story was, his girlfriend was his assistant. And so they were doing the metamorphosis, the substitution trunk. And so for the listeners who don't know, that's where the magician gets inside, is locked inside of a case. The assistant gets on top, holds up a curtain, and when she drops it, it's now him on top, and then he undoes everything. He opens up the case, and she pops out, generally in a costume change. So his assistant was his girlfriend, and he had broken up with her, and I can't remember if it's just you, but whatever it was, and he started seeing somebody very quickly. I'm trying to remember the exact details. It was years ago I heard this, and I'm not even sure I remember now that I'm thinking about who this was. But anyway, so what he did is he had his girlfriend coming to this show where he was going to be performing on live television, and his assistant, who he'd broken up with, she was going to be doing the show. So they'd just broken up probably a few days before. His girlfriend is watching this. So this assistant, who used to be his ex-girlfriend, was obviously not in a very favorable mood. So you imagine, he gets locked inside. She gets up on top. Cameras are rolling. This is live TV for, a morning show. She drops the curtain. So it's now him on top. He drops the curtain, undoes everything. He opens it up. She pops out in her underwear and bra. Everything screeched to a halt, and he's looking out to the audience. Can't understand why the camera guys are giving a funny look. And now he turns to look at her. She should have done a costume change. Now her excuse to him was that I didn't have enough time to put on the new costume. But he, of course, realized afterwards, maybe I shouldn't have broken up with her, then had her assist on the show while my new girlfriend was sitting in the audience watching.
Right.
So that was a huge disaster story that I remember. So a couple from me, crazy, absolutely nuts. And this again, I think I'm remembering who it was, but this was years and years ago. He was younger, and anyway.
Well, do you know the story? Do you know the story about the Pendragons? They did the world's fastest metamorphosis, of course. But there's a video on YouTube that a friend of mine shared with me a few years ago where they were doing it at, what's the guy's name? Oh, shoot. Captain Kirk. He was the host of the television show.
William Shatner.
William Shatner. Did you see that skit? Do you remember what I'm talking about?
No.
So he was hosting it. It was one of the grand theaters in Europe in front of the Queen. And the Pendragons are there, and William Shatner's talking them up and saying how great they are. When they do the switch, Jonathan's playing to the audience and opens up the box to reveal Charlotte, and she's pulling the lid down. She won't let him open it up, and she just kind of sticks her head out. Her costume, she couldn't put her bottoms on, or when she changed, her bottoms fell off or ripped or something.
No.
So it's on YouTube. No. You can see it. So she will only open up the trunk a little bit and stick her head out. Yeah, I'm switched, and yeah, I'm here, but she couldn't. And she took the final bow and went to commercial, and she was just waving from inside the box.
Yeah. Yeah, just
Oh
her
my
head
God,
poking out.
hilarious! No, I don't know that story. That's fabulous.
Yeah.
So, for me, I've got a few, but a couple of stories that certainly. So, as I said, I used to be much more into ventriloquism, and as a puppeteer. And many years ago, I was doing a kids' party, and I'm talking, I was maybe 16 years old, 17 years old, probably not even that old. And there's kids, and so what I do is the way that I would do it is I would do about half an hour of magic, and then end with about 10, 15 minutes of ventriloquism. And I had my ventriloquist figure, and I'm holding on to the head stick. And as I used to be able to do something with this particular type of figure. That when I would wiggle the stick, his head would sort of shake back and forth, and I would make him do a funny noise that always made the kids laugh. During this one time, his head fell off.
Oh.
And I heard this. I was like a ninja and a Jedi. I heard the snap of the stick, and my head whipped around to look at it. As his head's pitching forward, and my hand comes up and grabs it and puts it back on. I now turn the stick so his head's now towards me, because that head would have just rolled into the audience. And geez, what's the matter with you? Oh, Jason, I'm not feeling very well right now. Okay, let's go back in the case and close the case up. Okay, I'm gonna do some more magic. But could you imagine? I mean, there's not enough years on the therapist's couch that would have helped those kids if they saw that dummy's head roll into the crowd, right? So that was one story that happened to me. I always remember. And then the other big disaster story. So happened. So I just recently got remarried a year and a half ago to the absolute love of my life. But my first marriage was back in 2000, and of course, obviously, I'm divorced. And 3 days before that, I was performing in a restaurant. Now, I was a heavy-duty restaurant performer through high school, through university for many years. I was at one restaurant for 12 years, 3 nights a week. I outlasted 6 general managers. And at that particular restaurant, this was 2 nights before I was the actual wedding. So for those of you who have been married before, you know that generally your wedding day is a pretty nerve-wracking day. And the days leading up to the wedding day are pretty nerve-wracking as well, because there's a lot on your mind. So I was doing a trick called ring flight. And Wes, I know you do ring flight, but for the listeners, it's basically a ring vanishes and it ends up generally on your key case, which is in your back pocket. It's a stunning trick. But there are real ring flights and real ring flights, and that's all I'm going to say. The real ring flights, I've heard some disaster stories about, and I had one of them. Because it's 2 days or 3 days before my wedding, and the secret's something I was supposed to do to make sure the ring was going to appear where it was. I just didn't, and I must have dropped the ring. So I'm going through the routine. These 2 lovely ladies at a table I was performing for. I reach in my back pocket, and your ring, and I open up, and the keys dump out, but there's no ring there. And I go, and in my mind, I'm thinking, it's just probably in my back pocket. And I reach into my back pocket, and there's no ring there. So now I'm looking around. And sort of on the floor, whatever, and my heart is beating a mile a minute, and the women are just laughing out. They think it's all part of the trick. And one of the servers, one of the busboys came up to me. He goes, Jason, what's going on? And at this point, I'm possessed. I go, I dropped the ring. You must help me find it. Right? Like, I'm just possessed right now. And he's looking around, and he picks it up, and he holds his hand out. And he says, is this it? So if you can picture a ring with a stone on the top, so picture holding it up by the circle part, the ring part, and the stone's on top. Now picture that someone has stepped on it, so now the ring is at a 45-degree angle pointing to the sun.
Oh, no.
So, of course, I'm 2 days away from getting married. I'm already not in my right mind. And I took the ring, and I sit down at the table. I said, ma'am, we've now had what we call a colossal failure. And I remember how the part that I almost emotionally lost it was how sweet it was when she looked at her friend, looked at me with this very bewildered look on her face and says, is this part of the trick? But she actually thought this was, now her destroyed ring was part of it.
Wow.
And I was profusely apologized, and of course she said, this was a family heirloom. And my manager came by, what's going on, and I explained, and he took care of it. I was about to get married. I've been doing a lot of jewelry stuff, so I knew that it was an easy fix, and they could fix it, but still, anyhow, the manager afterwards came to me, he goes, look, you got to keep doing that trick. It was an accident. It happened. Don't worry, we're going to get it fixed. It's on us. And I mean, it wasn't even very expensive to fix. But I gave the ladies my business card. I said, I would be shocked if you ever wanted to see me again, but if you do a free show, whatever you want, it is on me. I was horrified, and Wes, you and I talked about this, and Natalie, you and I have talked about this too, is about the pride that we take in our work as performers and the trust that people put in us when they come on stage, when they book us, when they welcome us into their community hall, when they welcome us into their home. And it's that's where I sort of battled with that sort of that guilt and that emotional part of me, because here's somebody trusting me with their ring, with their object, with their bill, with their whatever it was. And that was something, that stuck with me for a while. And so my manager had to have the last, what he called laugh on it. So at the actual wedding day, I had invited him and his partner to come, and he saw me in the middle of at the show. Hey, Jason, you having a good time tonight? I said, yeah, you guys enjoying the wedding? He goes, yeah. He goes, oh, one of the guests brought this in, and he reaches into his pocket, and what he had done is just gone to a street vendor, got himself a semi-cheap silver ring, and stomped the crap out of it. He pulls it out, puts it in his hand, he goes, here, they just want to know if you could fix this for him.
Wow.
I was killing myself. It was so funny. It was so funny. So,
well, that's what I was thinking.
A major disaster moment.
I was thinking you were going to say it was a cheap ring they got out of a Cracker Jack box, that's why it cracked or bent so hard. How did it get bent like that? If you just dropped it from waist level.
Yeah, it just dropped, and somebody had walked by, didn't even realize it, just stepped on it. That was all. Someone just stepped on it because, you're walking around. But it was, and I've heard horror stories about the ring flight. Magicians performing it on the top deck of a cruise ship, and it drops into the ocean, gone.
Or the stone flies.
Or the stone flies out, exactly. So, of course, I'm much more careful since then, of doing it. But that was probably one of the biggest disasters. And, again, just sort of the emotional state that I was in right then. I didn't handle it very well. I handled it very well with them, but for myself, it stuck with me for a little bit. But sort of more... Do I have time to tell you one other disaster story?
Oh, yeah. We got plenty of time. Go for it. Yeah.
There's just some silly stuff that's happened in the same restaurant. This wasn't a disaster story, but it was just a very sweet story where we know that sometimes just a comment from an audience member or something can just brighten our day. So I was one of the things that I would say to often to people when they were when I was performing to them is, especially in the restaurant, is it's a free trick or it's a free show. Because sometimes, a magician approaches you in a restaurant, oh gosh, do I have to pay for this? Am I going to have to tip them? And just want to let them know, not to worry, it is completely free. So, whatever it was, this was one night I just was not having a great night. Because, sometimes guests can be a little surly and just things, whatever. It wasn't a great night, but it was a family of four. And the parents seemed to be in a very frustrated mood as well. Maybe it was a full moon that night, I don't know. So at one point in my routine, in an effort to try to brighten the mood and maybe inject some more levity into the situation, I jokingly said, "Hey, folks, would you like a little bit more trick, a little more excitement? It's free." And the eyes of the youngest family member, little girl at the table, suddenly grew wide, and she looked up at me with this big surprise and happy look on the face and held up 3 little chubby fingers and said, "I'm free too."
Wow.
Aww.
As in 3, because that's what the kid thought I said, and you just melt at that moment. And Wes, we have moments like that, and it's a brilliant moment. So that was a quick thing. But the other quick story I was going to just tell you, I do a trick from a good friend of mine, Tom Urisitz. I think Tom's in Pennsylvania, and he has a trick called Stuck in Time. It uses an hourglass, and a ring appears inside the hourglass. So there was what a spectator was supposed to do when I wasn't looking. As I said, now look, I'm going to count 1, 2, 3. I just want you to take the hourglass and turn it over on the table. Very simple instructions. So what had happened is that when I turned for the climax to do, and now the ring is going to be in the hourglass or whatever the climax is, it's gone. The hourglass is not on the table anymore. And, for a minute you go, did it fall? But you didn't hear it shatter. You didn't hear anything on the ground. And she's standing there innocently looking at me. but I realized she wasn't trying to be mischievous. She thought what she was supposed to do was take the ring, the hourglass, turn it over, and just keep it in her hand behind her back. So I'm looking around for the climax of the trick, and I said, well, ladies and gentlemen, she's just made the whole hourglass disappear. She's here all week. Can I please get another pair of pants? Or, whatever line that I said. And that was a disaster story, but it was fun. But it's that moment where a spectator, because Wes, you and I both know, and Natalie, when there's people on stage who are trying to mess the magician up.
Right.
I had a friend of mine who did a book test. Was going to do a book test reveal for a really bad crowd of rowdy high school kids, and someone stole his pen that he had the cheat notes on. So he was trying to do it, and it's gone. They somehow snuck into his case and pulled it out. So here, this woman wasn't trying to be mischievous. She just grabbed it, and that's what she thought she was supposed to do. But I always talk about in life, what is our takeaway? We had a bad experience. We had a frustrating experience. Okay, what can we take away from this? And often, these are gifts that are given to us in the negative spot. If I can talk a little sort of metaphysically here, universe brings us to our knees so that we can learn in bad times. So what was my experience? My instructions, my verbal instructions now changed during that trick. So please go ahead, turn the hourglass over, and put it back on the table, and then step away.
Right.
Very simple, but never would have thought to.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's a few stories there for you.
No, and I have Natalie. So I was doing a trick at a trade show where the lady was going to write down anything on a business card, on a stack of business cards, turn it over, put it back on the stack of business cards, and we're done. And Natalie's videotaping. The lady writes her name on the business card. She turns it over and then palms off the business card into her pocket. And Natalie's like, no. And the lady's like, and she put it back on top of the stack, and I was able to get what I needed to get, and I was able to get the information. But if Natalie hadn't have been there, I would have known it was a stalemate. And I'm like, hey, lady, you didn't write anything on this card, Because, I have Natalie is what I'm trying to say. I have Natalie that can, if the audience tries to do something behind my back or do something sneaky, she's like, nuh-uh, that's not the instructions you got.
But Natalie, was this spectator trying to be mischievous, or she truly just thought that's what she was supposed to do?
No, she was trying to be mischievous because she wrote her name and looked up at Wes to make sure he was still turned around before she took it and put it in her pocket.
Yeah.
I'm like, hello, I'm standing right next to you, looking at you. You can't do that.
But then that reveal, she was blown away. She had no idea, and she didn't know that.
Which is always nice, right?
Oh,
which
it was
is always
great.
Nice when somebody they're trying to mess you up. I had something many years ago, and you guys will agree. I don't know how many drunk people you've ever performed for in your crowds, because I know you do a lot of family shows, but you can't argue with a drunk person. They will always have the last word because they think they're the funniest people in the room. And this was a group of really rowdy adults that I was performing for. I think it was a very wealthy family, a wealthy group, and just a lot of adults. And a couple of these people were so rowdy. So there's one point where it's like the idea of Wes, do you do cardiographic?
I have 3 of them, but I've never performed it.
3? Was there a sale? I mean, what happened?
I bought one, and I got 2 in collections. I've never performed it ever.
How many might turn locks? Is this what you do? You get Natalie to buy other ones. Okay.
Well, see,
he has to buy at least 2 of everything, because he goes, what if one breaks? How's it going to break when it's sitting on the shelf, Wesley? But it's it is what it is.
I want one for my collection, one for the road, and one's a backup. That's simple. It's not complicated.
Yeah. That's a bad habit we have as magicians, for sure. But this was it was cardiographic. Years ago, I was doing this, and so. But if the listeners to the podcast don't know, so you're drawing a card on a pad of paper, and it's the wrong chosen card. You basically draw dimensions to it so it looks like a deck of cards, and on the pad of paper there's an animation of the actual card that rises from the middle of the deck of cards. Great. So I drew the card, and I said, and here's your card. And of course it isn't. That's the whole sort of play. It's a sucker trick here where the audience thinks they got you. And one really inebriated, obnoxious woman in the audience yells out, "You suck!"
Oh, no.
Dead quiet. Went dead quiet. And so, comedy magician, what do you say at a point like that? And I just said, gosh, these are memories of growing up listening to my parents talk to me. And, of course, that brought the house down. Everyone started laughing. So then, of course, you drew the animation, and the card comes out. And now, as the performer, we glance out to the smart aleck in the audience who did that, who's just trying to look all still cool, but of course they can't now, right? So anyway, it can be pretty obnoxious.
Wow.
People. Yeah.
Well, the problem, drunk people are like little kids. I mean, I got you, nanner, nanner, but they don't have you any better than a kid has you. The problem with an adult, they're bigger and they can beat you up. So if you challenge them and make them look stupid, then they're taking it to another level. I was doing a street festival and I was just doing close-up magic. And the guy just looked over at me and said, "Good job, man," or "Good job, magic man," and reached out to shake my hand. And when I squeezed his hand, he pinched two of my rings together, which pinched a nerve in my ring finger of my right hand.
Oh, my goodness.
And, I mean, it was just, I embarrassed him in front of his girlfriend because I have magic powers. What am I trying to do, hit on his girl? No, I wasn't trying to hit on your girl. I mean, he just took it to another level, and it's like, people, come on.
Wow.
It's crazy, man. Yeah, so I had to splint my fingers together for like 6 months because it whatever it did, it messed up something.
Holy crap. Yeah, danger. We need danger
that's show
for
business.
our work, don't we?
That's show business.
Yeah, it is show business.
But people, and that's the other thing. Do you still do restaurants at all?
I haven't done restaurants in a while. I got out of it for a bit. I've been thinking about doing it again. I like it. I say this for new performers out there. Restaurant magic, listen, it doesn't pay that great generally, but what you're doing is, Wes and Natalie, are you familiar with when I say muscle memory? Do you know what I mean by that?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, Natalie went to check on the baby. She left. She'll be right back. She went to check on the baby.
Oh, okay, gotcha. So the repetition of that. So the repetition of what you're doing, the muscle memory to build up how to palm something, the muscle memory to remember how to say certain things in a script. So the muscle memory of doing the same few routines for table after table after table for 2 or 4 hours a night or whatever it is one of the best ways to learn. It's amazing. I recommend to any magicians. I know for myself, I got my first restaurant when I was about 17 years old. And I'll tell you, it's one of the things that helped to form my style and personality, which, if you've not seen them, I'm very much improvisational. I ad-lib a lot in my act. I always say the best thing about my show is it's not scripted. The worst thing about my show is it's not scripted.
Right.
Of course, it's scripted if I have to for a client or whatever, but one of the things I'm generally good at is ad-libbing in the moment and just sort of on the fly what has to do and improvise. So, but one of the ways I got that was from years of restaurant magic. You're dealing with families, you're dealing with drunk people, you're dealing with a couple on their first date, you're dealing with, people who say, no, I don't want to see any magic and all this stuff. It's really good. So I miss it sometimes. I really do.
You could do a whole podcast just on restaurant stuff. And people at my last restaurant, I mean, the managers are young kids. I'm the old guy now. And when they're paying me my nightly salary, they're like looking at me because it's not a lot of money. And I'm like, yeah, but I can't charge $250 an hour for close-up magic unless I have this muscle memory, unless I can go into this law firm and kill. How do I learn how to kill? I got to be bad somewhere else. You guys are paying me to be bad. I can work on new material here. I cannot work on new material at that law firm.
It's a great thought, and that's exactly what it is, Wes. I think this is where you're working your kinks out.
Yeah.
My third degree burn 1, and now I have third degree burn 2.0 out.
Christmas time, Natalie, write that down. I don't have 2.0. I said Christmas time, Natalie, write that down. I don't have 2.0.
That was all filmed in the restaurant. That's where I developed that trick and the routine, because you're doing it over and over again. At that time, I was there 3 nights a week. What was it, 2 or 3 hours a night? I don't even remember what it was back then. And amazing, and Wes, you can hand out your business card, you get a little bit of money, you get regulars coming in to see you, and it's a really fantastic way to get over stage fright or talking to people, and you learn how to talk to people and how to interrupt people, but in a tactful way. I think a big mistake that a lot of restaurant performers think is that everyone is there to see them. No, they're not. The restaurant survives very well without you. You're a bonus.
Right.
So remember that you're the bonus there. So, the restaurant, the food comes first. So I would, there's, again, just different techniques I would work to, you have to figure this out because you're in the middle of the climax. You're about to turn over the card, and their sizzling plate of hot peppers suddenly comes to the table. What do? How do you deal with that? Because now they turn to look, but now, anticlimactic, what do? So this is part of how you learn how to deal with this stuff so that when you're doing sort of your larger shows, you're able to have practice for those moments.
Well, I think that's our next podcast. We'll talk about restaurant experiences because we could have a whole podcast about that. JasonPalterLive.com for the man if you want to hire him. Paltergeist.com if you want to buy one of his magic creations. What about Facebook, Twitter, any of that stuff? You got any of those you want to plug?
Yeah. So on Facebook, you can find me at Jason Palter Live as well. And again, that's Palter, Palter. A lot of people think it's Paul, but no, it's P as in Paul, A-L, T as in Tom, E-R. So you can find me at Jason Palter Live, or just friend me on Facebook. I should be doing more on Instagram and on Twitter, but I don't a lot. You can find me on Instagram under Jason Palter Live as well. But it's probably best on Facebook. I seem to be on that more often right now, but that could change soon.
All right, dude. Well, thank you so much for being on the air. Hold on one second. I'm going to do the plugs for us, and then we'll get out of here. But thank you for being here, man. You're awesome. We love you, and hold on the line.
I love you guys, too. Thanks.
Tonight on Jewel TV, Episode 8, The Show Must Go On, will air at 7 p.m. It's on Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire, the Jewel TV app, and tons of other places. It's in over 100 million households. You can find it. All you have to do is look for it. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we have a lot of cool stuff coming up. So, see you next week. Today's episode of the podcast is sponsored by Express Copy and Graphics. Mention promo code Wes Iseli to get 10% off. Their website is expresscopy.com. That's XPRESS-COPY.com. They do it all. Copies, banners, signs, vehicle wraps, promo items, practically anything you need printed, they can do it for you. These guys are great. Check them out. Check us out online at wesiseli.com and patreon.com/Wes_Iseli for behind-the-scenes videos, blooper videos, never-before-seen footage, discounts on merchandise, magic trick tutorials, and more. That's Wes Iseli, spelled W-E-S-I-S-E-L-I.